We're excited to have Abdulla Almoayed, founder and CEO of Tarabut, with us today.
We were the first open banking platform in the region. For the first 3 years, we were beating down doors. Nobody would listen to us. It's not about what we want to solve. It's what does the nation need solving. To me, open banking is something that can bring everybody into the financial inclusion and give them the financial services that they need when they need them. And technology really democratizes that. We want to make financial services faster, more accessible, and basically easier to reach your target market. We share the same vision. And I remember when we first started having conversation with Visa, it was we help a community, we help our partners, we align interests.
2 years ago, many banks would say open banking is not for us, it's a threat to us.
Applying for a credit card, you get a salary certificate, you get 6 months of bank statement. Open banking, it's a click of a button. And the customers today, if you're going to go on a shopping website and it's one click and you get your items, banking services should be the same.
Welcome to Access Tomorrow. I'm your host, Leila Serhan. In each episode, we tackle commerce from various perspectives, from small business owners to financial institutions and fintechs. We explore ideas and strategies that drive growth. This podcast is brought to you by Visa. We're excited to have Abdulla Almoayed, founder and CEO of Tarabut, with us today. Tarabut is MENA's first and largest open banking platform. It provides real-time financial data and payment infrastructure, enabling advanced financial product creation for banks, lenders, fintechs, and startups. It has operations in the UAE, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and more recently in the UK. So let's get started. Abdullah, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you.
What a beautiful place, by the way.
Yeah, we're live from Istanbul today. It's great to be in such a city full of history, but also of innovation. And talking about innovation, I mean, I'd love to hear more from you directly. What is the story of Tarabut? What has been the journey of Tarabut in the MENA region?
The journey has been beautiful. We started in 2017. We are now operational in Bahrain, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and the UK most recently. And the story was, we like solving problems. And the question was, starting with socioeconomic problems across the region, and what are the biggest problems and challenges that we can unlock using technology? And that was the premise on which we started, and here we are today.
If you think of those problems that you want to solve, I mean, what is the open banking potential actually to solve those problems, if we can double-click a little bit on this?
Yeah, so if you look at an entire ecosystem, right? When we talk about socioeconomic challenges, we're talking about things like financial inclusion, financial literacy, access to finance, SME financing. And what we quickly found when we were researching all of this is open banking really solves a lot of these issues because it's primarily a combination between banking as a service, data, payments. And when you bundle them all together, you can solve real problems. So I think primarily we started looking at financial literacy by building data infrastructure that can make it easier from a consumer's perspective to understand their own spending habits. And then we started realizing, wait, there are other opportunities here and other challenges that we want to solve. Things like SME financing, things like access to finance, blue collar, the gig economy, these wallets and how they're getting access to people. And how can we bundle and work with our partners? And our partners are usually a combination between fintechs, banks, and regulators. Yeah. And what's been interesting is we typically follow national strategies. In every country that we go to, it's not about what we want to solve. It's what does the nation need solving? And that's typically the regulator's position, is gives us guidance as to focus on SMEs or focus on financial inclusion. And then we use the technology that we've built with our bank partners to address these throughout.
And when you think of those challenges and of open banking specifically, I mean, a lot of the time we think of use cases that addresses financial institutions and banks. Is open banking also solving for challenges for retailers, small business owners?
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at, it's been such a beautiful conference, and everything we're talking about, retail is changing, e-commerce is changing, the way we apply for a mortgage is going to change. And when you look at open banking, everything that had friction is going to change. Everything that was cumbersome, people today expect to get what they need when they need it at the click of a button.
Exactly.
As opposed to, you want to apply for a mortgage, you don't want to wait and to be able to go and apply in that perspective. You want to be able to click and get an instant loan. Open banking allows for all of that because, one, you can connect your account. You can do a credit score. Two is you can leverage that credit score for the bank to be able to support and make a decision instantly. And three, you get to repay that loan. So when you get the combination of all of that three, what we're trying to do is we usually say we want to make financial services faster, more accessible, and basically easier to reach your target market. And if you do that across an entire nation, you're really solving socioeconomic challenges.
Yeah, so true. And then when you think you address the issue of data, many times when we talk to our clients about open banking, especially in the North Africa, Levant and Pakistan region, I think the more sophisticated client always come with, but my data is not right.
Yeah.
So how do you help them actually getting their data right?
Analytics, AI, great infrastructure. We've come a long way as far as technology is concerned today, right? Cleansing that data, enriching that data. We start with, our data journey is very clear, right? First, you get access to it, then you cleanse it, then you enrich it, and you categorize it, and then all of a sudden you can really leverage it to help you make better financial decisions. And I think today technology has reached a point where that's able. You can actually, it's better for you to use APIs than for you to use bank statements, for example. And we're seeing it being leveraged across all the markets right now.
Going back as well to entering new markets, right? So you mentioned some of the markets where you are. I think many times as well when we talk to our client partners, they tell us, but the regulation is not there, right? So what are the steps that you take to ensure regulatory compliance? What kind of work do you actually do with regulators? You mentioned them as an important stakeholders. And the other stakeholders, obviously, fintechs, right? And maybe the third part is, what is your advice to fintech? I mean, what steps should fintech take so that they can actually embark on this open banking, I would say, adoption?
So the way we build our engagement internally is we have 4 stakeholders. We've got regulators, banks, lenders, and fintechs. And everything we do starts with the regulator communication. Any market that we go to, we engage with the regulator. We respond to their consultation papers. We enrich ourselves in terms of what are the regulations, what are they trying to achieve. If you take Saudi Arabia, for example, you download the Financial Sector Development Program. It's very clear. This is what they want to solve. And then we look at how can we contribute to it. My advice to fintechs would be, my journey throughout with Tarabut has been, we have been through 4 regulatory sandboxes. We've been licensed across 4 markets, and we've been doing it one at time in, time out. And the one thing that's unified throughout is the closer engagement you have with the regulator, the more streamlined that process becomes, because you understand what the objectives and can basically cater to them. So my advice to fintechs would always be very close to these white papers, understand the national objectives before trying to force a Saudi Arabian solution in Pakistan, for example. It's not how it works. It's, what is Pakistan trying to solve? What's important to them? Egypt's problem is very different than the UAE's problem, but primarily the technology to solve that is typically the same in many cases. So the question is usually get close to the regulator, get close to their objectives, get close to the banks, and find out what the banks, where is the addressable market, and help them get to that.
Okay. So that's good advice. When we talk about open banking, we talk a lot about interoperability. Obviously, there's the interoperability from a technology perspective. But there's also the kind of strategic alliance that needs to be built. Would love to hear more about this from you.
So since day one, we've always, the Middle East and North Africa, as I know it, is a population of 500 million plus people. There's only about 350 retail banks across the entire region.
Wow.
right? So that means aligning with the banks and making sure that we can work with the banks is something that was very important to us from day one. With that in mind, what we look at is primarily how do we align interests between us and the financial institutions and the regulator to make sure that whatever we're solving for is something that we all are trying to solve for together, and aligning that interest not just in terms of objectives, but what we also look at is how do we incentivize all parties? How do we do rev share contracts? How do we do profit share contracts? As opposed to just going in and trying to be a technology provider, we want to be a partner. We want to work with these banks, with the regulators on how we can basically enhance the ecosystem, enhance the community, enhance the delivery at the end of the day. And that's primarily by the alignments of interests of all parties.
Yeah. And when you think of this alignment of interest, so you mentioned the GCC, when you think of some of the solutions that you offer, how do you see those being tailored to address some of the emerging markets? Right?
Yeah.
Think Egypt, Pakistan, Morocco.
Yeah.
How do you see your solutions being tailored to address?
So multiple folds. I think there's a unified concept that is a priority across these markets seems to be financial inclusion.
True.
When we talk about access to finance, a lot of the early stage access to finance has been, hey, we want to open a bank account. We're solving for EKYC. We're solving for onboarding. But that's not what financial inclusion is. Yes, you've brought this community into the financial world, but now how do we service them? How do we give them access to loans? There's still a lot of these primary markets like Pakistan, like Egypt, loan sharks still exist.
Oh, yeah.
Blue-collar workers, for example, that are not getting access to finance, but they're getting the salary on the 29th. Why don't we digitally give them access to finance? And when you look at all the services and the digital infrastructure that's available today, access to finance, financial inclusion, financial literacy as a whole, just because you're earning X amount doesn't mean we're all financially literate. A lot of us don't know how to invest money. We don't know it until we've overspent, that we have in fact overspent. And these are all little tools that we can engage through digital, and it makes it accessible. And the last thing that I think is super important with these high growth, amazing markets like Egypt, Pakistan, and places like that is you've got an SME or micro or nano or SME market that is coming up that don't get access to finance today. And by finance, I mean credit as well. It's not just an account to be able to deposit, but do you give them credit? These can be high opportunity, high growth companies that we need to be able to get to them. And the only way you'll be able to get to them is through open banking.
Yeah. Credit, wealth management, savings.
Exactly.
I'd love if you can share, in an ideal world, kind of a open banking at its best working for
a user. So I always, with the team internally, I have this conversation and I say, until Leila wakes up in the morning and gets a notification on her phone that says to her, hey, you've got $500 sitting in your bank account that you're not likely to need based on your habits, can I put it in a fixed deposit for you? I don't need to educate that person, but I can do it on their behalf. To me, open banking is something that can bring everybody into the financial inclusion and give them the financial services that they need when they need them. That could be an SME, that could be a person, that could be somebody of high income, low income, and technology really democratizes that. I'm not so keen about corporates and large corporates, and the reason why is I still think they get great service.
True.
And all of them are overbanked, they have their RM sitting in. So I'm more interested in SMEs, individuals, how can we help them? And I think open banking gives you what you need without you needing to ask for it there and then. And that's what I hope to be able to achieve.
That's an ideal word. If we look at, we know that Tarabut and Visa have a strong partnership in the region. How do you see this partnership actually helping our clients, our partners, access maybe new markets, segment, new opportunities?
Yeah.
How does it work?
So we share the same vision. And I remember when we first started having conversation with Visa, it was we help a community, we help our partners, we align interests. And we're experts at what we do. So whenever we approach a market like Saudi or the UAE or the markets in which we operate, we first try to understand the macro segment, right? Of what are they trying to solve? How can we go in together? And what we've seen is we're very aligned and complementary in terms of visa consulting plus our technology, and how do we bundle it together to not only give them a strategy, but be their execution partners as well. So when we come in as a combo or as a joint force, we basically go in and we say to the bank, look, here's what you need to solve. Here's how we can help you. And you know what? Don't worry, we can actually execute it with you. And then I talk about the alignments of interest. Is the way we structure a lot of these partnerships is more about we're rev share, we're profit share, we're in it with you. We are socially responsible and we want to solve these problems with you.
Yeah, I think if I think of Visa, we do one thing, which is payment, and hopefully we do it well.
Yeah.
If I think of Tarabut, you do one thing, which is open banking, and hopefully you do it well.
Exactly. And when you bundle it together, you've solved the problem.
And the bank has so many things to do. So coming together to solve and to bring new opportunities for the bank, I think is very powerful. If you want to give some key takeaways to the players in the ecosystem in Middle East and North Africa on what they need to do to succeed in open banking, right? From your experience, learning from what you've done, from seeing other players, probably you, now that you're in the UK as well, what you're seeing in the UK, what are the things that MENA players need to do?
So we work with a plethora of banks across the entire region, right? And the one thing that I've seen is open banking is coming. It's a reality. It's here already and it's inevitable. But it's also the biggest opportunity for all banks to be able to solve the challenges that they couldn't solve earlier because of the technology not being available. So previously you'd have a conversation with a bank and you'd say, hey, would you be open to lending to SMEs or blue collar? And they'd say, I don't know how to credit score them. I don't have the data and the data. Now all of that exists.
Yep.
So think of open banking as the solution to any of the untouched markets that you would like to go after. And across the board, you'll see that the solution is there. It's just about embracing it, mapping it out, having a fresh set of eyes that can look at the problem from a different lens. And look, we're more than happy to collaborate on any of these problems.
Yeah, definitely. I think 2 years ago, it reminds me of when fintech started coming up, and banks were kind of saying, "Oh no, fintechs, they shouldn't be allowed to operate." 2 years ago, many banks would say, "Oh no, open banking is not for us; it's a threat to us." And now they're coming and they're asking and actually pushing the regulator to do more around the regulation for open banking.
And it digitizes everything. When you look at the simplest of cases, right? Applying for a credit card, applying for a loan. Today you apply for a credit card, you get a salary certificate, you get 6 months of bank statement. Open banking, it's a click of a button, right? It's a click of a button. We get your data, it's enriched, you get a credit score and it's instantly there. So, and the customers today, if you're going to shop, if you're going to go on a shopping website and it's one click and you get your items, banking services should be the same.
Yeah, I love your example of the credit card, because it's like when you start an Instagram account, you're not going to wait 2 weeks until your Instagram account is working. You want it instantly. Yeah. And I think your social media identity, your payment identity, all your identity is kind of becoming one. And I think open banking is definitely facilitating this. It's fascinating. I have one last question for you, Abdullah, and it's kind of this pivot moment in your life, in your career, that you would share with us, that we can obviously learn from, that got you to where you are today.
I think I've always been very passionate about solving big problems. And the pivot for me was Tarabut we were the first open banking platform in the region. For the first 3 years, we were beating down doors. Nobody would listen to us. Obviously, things now have drastically changed, but the one turning point was when our first product went live, and we started seeing just the look on faces where our partners launch a product and we're solving a problem, and either you're showing people what they've spent, or they can see transactions in a nicer way, or just these early products. I think to me that was I want to keep doing this. This is exactly what I keep doing. And I just want to do it in a bigger spectrum where we can solve socioeconomic problems. And I think that's what drives us internally.
Yeah, it kept you going, and it kept you expanding with Tarabut, and hopefully we'll see you expanding in many, many more markets across the region. Abdullah, thank you so much.
Thank you
for coming, talking to us about open banking. I'm sure many of the insights you shared are going to inspire a lot of our clients, our partners, small and medium businesses to maybe start thinking a little bit more about the capability.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Always great, Leila. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. We're committed to providing you with fresh and bold insights from our region. So don't miss our next episode. Until then, stay informed, stay inspired, and always strive to stay ahead of tomorrow. Thank you once again for watching and listening to Access Tomorrow, brought to you by Visa.